truth is finally here.
Okay, that's better. So that's the plane of the panel, the dotted line. Those are your dent, that's your dent, and these are your crowns. Now, most guys are going to tell you, in fact, I get a guy in here every once in a while, he goes, I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me if I knock that crown down, that I'm going to wash that metal into the dent and my dent's going to come up a lot faster. And I go, well, that's good. That's part of it. That's better than nothing. But a much better way to do it, the way the old time panel guys used to do this, is part of the Fairmont method. You took the top of the crown, okay, let's say it's right there. That's the apex of your crown. That would be the high point of your crown, okay? And instead of tapping here, you see when you tap right there, it is true, you move metal and energy into your dent. The problem is you move almost as much metal and energy outside of your dent.
So we want to roll it.
That's right, and how we do that, the old time formula was, and then again, this is, not exact science, you don't take a ruler out and measure this. You go where the top of the crown is, the apex of the crown, go to where there is no more crown, okay, right about there is no more crown. You take roughly 20% of that distance, 20 to 30% of that distance, and again, this is just a ballpark, don't get paranoid about it, or anal about it, I should say. Take 20% of that distance, and that's where you would start tapping your crown down, okay? Or hammering it down. You'll hammer almost all of your crowns probably eventually. But for right now, we're going to tap down with a nice soft tap down. Okay, so we start here, and when we do that, we send over. It's cool to watch in the fog. You can see it in the pinstripe too. As you're doing that, you just watch it go roll right into the dent. Just like a wave, wash it right into the dent. Do that, and it fights you quite a bit. So we start back here, and we roll, and by the time we get to that point, we've already washed quite a bit of energy into that body line. In fact, quite often, if you do everything, if you wash it in beautifully, your body line dent's almost done just with your tap down. Now that doesn't happen all the time, maybe 10% of the time, but it's a cool thing to see. Small little glue pull, bang, you're done. Okay, so we're not going to hit on the apex or the top of the crown, roughly about 20 to 30% back of it, and then we're going to tap, and by the time we get to the point that we would have started at, we've already washed a large amount of our energy into the dent. Then we do the same thing to the other side, wash it into the dent. Now sometimes as you're doing this, let's say you got that one down, you made like your first pass, and that's looking good, and then you go to that one, you'll notice that, now as I'm doing this one, I'm noticing some of that one is coming back. That's a sure sign you got to help that body line out some. Now you say, well, all I can do is glue pull. You might just put a moderate glue pull on that. If you're tapping on that one or vice versa, and the other crown starts to come back, sure sign that body line has to come up. It's not an either or thing. People say it's got to be crowns, it's got to be body lines. It's actually both. See, we're not hitting this down. We're not actually moving the body line to get the body line up. We're putting pressure on the body line to help the crown roll into it. And the ideal way, like I said, it would be just wonderful if we could get, and on that aluminum one we can't, if we could put a little bit of pressure right on that body line, maybe 30, 40 pounds, not even that much, 20, 25 pounds, just a little bit, we wouldn't even have that problem of that one and that one gets bigger. This usually doesn't happen, but it happens 10, 15% of the time. So if we could put pressure on it, that would roll even faster. But again, we have two hands, no helper, and we don't have a hole to get through anyway sometimes, and we kind of want to do a glue pulling so we don't have to drill. You're going to have to do this. So if this roll makes that crown look worse, and you had that out beautifully, and then you go and tap that down, and that's a sure sign. Get on that dent, put a few pushes or a moderate glue pull, then go right back to your crowns.
Could you potentially put a glue tab in the center, hold it with a handle?
We're going to get to that. That actually does work very well. Now, when I will do that is when those crowns are stiff and they're not direct in the dent the way I want. I can do that absolutely. They make bridge pullers and stuff like that, so you can put across it and then help that. Yeah. But again, see, everybody gets carried away. I want to move that body line out. Not until the crown washes in. Then knock yourself out. What we don't want to do is trap the metal from that dent past the crown. We don't want to do that. That's going to make us see our finishing. Everything we do, people say, well, I want to move metal. I do too. But what I want to do a lot more, I want to make my finishing go faster. Okay. So I'm not, when I see a dent, the first thing I think of, how do I make my finishing go faster here? Not how do I move the metal. And I know from experience and the Fairmont method, I mean, this is what you learn like day one, and they keep reinforcing it, that the crown, it's like a wave. You want to move that crown energy into the body line. That's what's going to get you the quickest and cleanest finish. Because if you just force that up and those body lines look like they came down, you're going to have to spend more time finishing. Now, that's not a 100% rule. Sometimes you can do that and you're just fine, but usually you get a much faster finish if that energy is brought into the dent. It's just the whole last in, first out. I know your dad taught you that, right?
No.
Okay, last we'll go over that when we get to large dents too. Last in, first out. Well, the crowns did happen last. Okay, well actually they didn't. There's one more force that we'll talk about when we get to large dents. So you want to take that energy, move it back into the dent, just like reversing a movie. So if we saw high-speed photography, like 1,000 frames a second sort of thing, you'd see the dent form, and as the dent's going, the crowns are getting more and more, pronounced, and then finally the object bounces out and everything stabilizes. We're just going to do the exact same thing, and we would love it if we could push up on that body line, but again, we only have 2 hands. So it's far more important that we wash that energy from that crown into that dent. Why? Because it moves metal. I could care less about this. I want my finishing to go fast because that's what eats your time. You can get in back of a panel, you can force that puppy out, right?
Yeah.
You get back in this one, there you go, I moved metal. What did you do to your finish time? That's everything to me because that's the bulk of your time.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference between a 95 to 98% repair, if you don't release that energy properly, you can take as long as it took you to do your dent to get just those extra 3%. You don't want that. You want your finishing to go fast. So that's what we base everything on, not moving metal. I want my finishing to go fast. And this is one of the ways you do it. Okay? So we're going to start in back, wash our energy into our crown, we're going to wash it into the dent, and we're going to get a much quicker, cleaner repair because when we glue pull now, there's literally no springs holding it back, and you pop it, cool, I'm good to go. It's the way we want to do it. Okay?
Easy enough.
You would think. You would think. Okay, so let's say we've done everything correctly. We've washed everything into the panel, and let's say that, for whatever reason, we decide that we don't want to, glue pull. Let's say we had to, let's say it's a repaint. We're thinking, man, I don't know, plus I have a nice hole there, I'm just going to go ahead and use my tool. Right? Yeah. Here's your body line. Let's say that was the original size of your dent before you washed your crowns in. Let's say you washed your crowns in now and you're left with something like that. That's all you got left, okay? Now at this point, absolutely go through and start picking up your body line. I always double check. For beginners, when you're starting out, it's usually easier to do this with a pinstripe. I run outside the body line one more time where the crowns used to be, okay? So the crown used to be up there. So what I do is I run my pinstripe. After a while, you'll be able to see even better in the fog, but run your pinstripe through the entire area of the body line. If you see any pinches, knock them down. You don't want to see any pinch. What you should see ideally after you've done a few dozen of these, and when you're practicing, you should run that pinstripe to see almost absolutely nothing until you get right to the rim of your dent and even a little bit past it. So just a beautiful, straight, no pinched pinstripe from this side and that side. You are ready to glue pull or pick up. Okay, so that was the original size of our dent. We washed our crowns up and we ended up with something like that. So now we go and we soft tip. Now we start picking up our body line dent because we decided for whatever reason we don't want to glue pull. And we're picking it up and everything's going cool. Body line's coming right up. We're just staying right on that body line. And a lot of times it works like that. You get it right to finish and you're done. Sometimes though, you're picking up and you're going, wow, noticeable difference. That body line all of a sudden just does not want to come up anymore. And this is another one of the cardinal rules. We've already talked about this. When metal isn't flowing, when it's not moving like water, when it's resisting you, there's pressure locked up somewhere. And you need to find out where it is, because again, not because you want to move metal. No, I want my finishing to go faster. That's what I'm after. So let's see, I'm picking up my body line, all of a sudden, doesn't want to move. What happened? You check your pinstripe. I got those crowns, man. What is going on here? Usually, it can be more, but usually it's one of two things. If you check, move your fogger on, you're probably going to see small little shoulders right around where you're picking up. You'll see them in the pinstripe as a pinch. I like seeing them in the fog. You'll see just a little bright white area around where you were picking up. Well, back with those arms, those are shoulders, and you say, well, I thought shoulders happen when you miss your crease like you were doing yesterday. I missed my crease there. I made little shoulders on either side. Well, shoulders can happen that way. You put them in. The other way they can form is a shoulder is generally the panel's way, okay, the whole panel's way of saying, we aren't taking any more metal out of that from that dent, and you better do something about it, Jack. Basically, they're saying is, you're using a soft tip and you're forcing all of the metal here to take it, and we're not going to take any more of that metal. And what they're basically saying is, you better start using a sharp tip, or a sharper tip at least, and quit forcing so much metal. Well, we can't do that on a body line. We really can't. We're going to pickle it up like crazy. We have to pretty much stay with that soft tip. That 835 hard cap I told you about, you're going to love that when you can use it. So we see these shoulders. You put down your tool, tap those shoulders down. Look at them from all directions, make sure you don't have, usually when you have one, you've got others. You put your tool on the body line, oh, now it's picking up again. So what we're basically doing is we're kind of forcing the rest of the panel to take a little bit extra metal. It's just temporarily. Once we get that body line up, we're cool. You can actually over push a body line just a titch, and you'll never see it, and it solves a multitude of issues. When you're doing body line cookies, you're going to do this all the time. You see these messed up body lines Tech did. I almost always push my body line just a titch proud of the panel, because it gets me a better finished look. Because it's not the right thing to do technically, but it's going to get that 95% improvement that I promised the customer. And these are going to be some of your worst cookies that you're going to see. So what we're going to do, we're going to force the metal from there into the panel temporarily, pick it up, we're good to go. Now the other thing that can happen, you look, you see I have no crowns, I have no shoulders. Well, what is going on here? Well, one of the other common things that can be is, that's the Dents way of saying, will you please put some perimeter pressure, or put some perimeter pushes in here for me. So you say, well, start pushing on the perimeter, and guess what? Now it's coming up nice and easy. It just had a little bit of perimeter pressure, like you saw in some of those deep dents you did. You put your fog board back, and you went, well, gee, there's like a little moat all around the perimeter. That's the fog saying, hey, can you help me? Yeah, you put your perimeter pressure, it's going, thank you, it's coming up nice and clean. So as long as you have your fog adjusted correctly, you'll always know where to push next. Okay, so we push on the perimeter, everything's coming up. Let's say we're pushing on the perimeter and it starts resisting. I don't have any shoulders, no. We'll pick up on the body, the body line's picking up nice and easy. So it's usually, not always now, but usually one of those three. So you just go back and forth between them and you bring your body line up. Okay?
It sounds easy enough, but I feel like once I get down to it, I'm gonna be like having struggles. But
well, that's why we're important to just keep. It's the basics. Whenever you screw up, it's the basics. I will guarantee you, it's the basics. Okay. Okay, so we've got that handled. Now let's say that we've picked our body line up or glue pulled it, but we still see, and this will happen to you sometimes, you see a little bit of something right around the impact point, usually just a soft little low, and you go, why, that shouldn't be too hard to do at all. Say we're still using our tool. We pick up on that puppy and it goes right back down. We go, this is, all right. We really force that puppy up and it still wants to come back down. You're going, why is it that little thing, and it's not even deep, why is it giving me such a hassle? Usually what that is, we call this body line hinging. Okay, and what it is, basically, when this thing got hit, you think, well, I'm just looking at the dent, that's where the damage was. Well, no, not on the body line a lot of times. What will happen is, clear out to, extend our body line here. The old time formula for, it wasn't a formula, but it was kind of an axiom that, again, they used to use. Take the original size of the dent before you fixed it, before you did anything to it, go that far on either side of where that little low was, and what happened is this area here and here did, now watch, the body line started off here. Now you can see that that went, it actually reversed the body line, okay? But from here to here, what happened is, boop, just that little bit. See, well, big deal. It is a big deal. From clear to here, and there to there, your body line washed out just a little bit, got a little bit flatter. That's a lot of energy. And while you're picking up, that's just sitting there laughing at you, saying, you think really? We're a lot stronger than you. Go ahead. Give us a shot to see what happens. So the old rule was you start that far out from where the rim of your dent used to be, the diameter of that dent. Again, not a hard and fast rule, but then you start with your tool, start picking up that body line, into the dent, and all of a sudden you get to that point, it just comes out all by itself, nice and easy, like it should have all along. Okay? Now you don't go, if it's a moderate dent, a lot of times you don't have to worry about it on heavy stuff. On cookie repairs and body lines, that would be one of the number one things sometimes you'll do that right off the bat. Now, if it's that type, if it's a bad body line hinge or even a moderate one, it'll show up when you get your head like 6-7 feet back from the car, and you'll go, oh, that's yeah, I definitely do have one. I can tell just by sighting down that panel. It's soft, but it is there. I'll go ahead and probably do, I'll probably get the bulk of it, I'll get the crowns out, and I might do that right after, it kind of depends, right after I get the crown out, even before I lift the body line up. I might put a few pushes, maybe one glue pull. I would stop at that point, and I wouldn't even wait till I got to that point. I would probably do it at that point, and I want my body line hinge up. The worse it is, the earlier I'll start it, because that can become kind of a mega force sometimes if it's a really bad body line hinge. I've seen some, it's like a, it's like a 6-inch diameter dent. You think, well, big deal. Clear to the end of the panel, it happened. It does happen, okay? So yeah, at various times you want to get that up. When in doubt, go ahead and pick it up. But if you sight down, you see it, you probably want to get that as soon as you get those crowns washed out. Possibly, maybe even before. It depends. There are times when I'll do the body line hinge the very first thing, but it kind of varies. Now, if you say, well, I can't get a tool on this. It's that aluminum hood. Come on, what am I supposed to do, guy? I can't even get a tool on that. Well, you can get some of the flat tabs you've got nowadays. You can put them across the body line and shock them.
With a slide hammer?
Usually that'll move them, it'll sharpen them up, not always, but I find, if you heat them up a little bit, which we'll show you, shock it up, that'll usually do it. Sometimes you gotta be careful, I've done it too much and actually been proud of the panel. The glue pull is very effective.
I've actually run across this a couple times.
Oh yeah, this is the biggest thing. How often have you done, I know you've done it, you fix a 6-inch body line dent, you look, oh, that looks great, and everybody comes around, man, this is the Mercedes, and you blocked it up beautifully, customer's gonna be so happy, and the customer comes and says, oh, you guys do great work, it looks brand new, and customer drives away, and you come back, proud of yourself, and about 6 months later, he shows up for some unrelated thing on the other side of the car. You go, I want to see my work, and you go, what? I know I did a better job blocking that. You did. You left residual pressure locked up in the dent. Guaranteed. And body line hinging is one of the primary residual pressures that you leave. Everybody does this. Well, unless you're properly trained, you're going to leave residual pressure in your dent. And if you're trying to pick up those little lows with all these springs, horizontal, all kinds of different. We're going to discuss that tomorrow. It's no wonder you're having come on, man, who's strong? Come on, pick that down. That's ridiculous. It should flow like water. It should. Okay. So yeah, you can shock those up with a glue puller sometime.
Yeah, that's good.
Those flat tabs are really good for that. I've actually got one. I've got some metal tabs that have a slight little V, about that long, a slight little V. They work fantastic. Bang! It'll take those out. It'll take those out, especially if you got to heat everything like we mentioned, or we're going to mention. So that's pretty much that's the basics. That's the extreme basics. You're going to a lot of this you're going to find through trial and error. But if you apply the basic principles, and that's all we can really do. Back in the days when we were apprenticing, that was the cool thing about apprenticing. You learned all the little exceptions to the rule. Okay. Right now I can just give you the basic and tell you to apply that, and that should work about 90% of what you're working on. And when you run into that, oh wow, what's this? That's where you have to think out of the box. And you're absolutely great at that, so you shouldn't have an issue with that whatsoever. That's basically it. That's for the theory part. Okay.
Now let's go do some crown work on an aluminum panel. All right, Ryan has volunteered to do a bodyline dent on aluminum. Not magnetic, it is aluminum. Got a quarter size there for comparison. It's easily golf ball plus size. We're going to apply everything we've learned about crowns to this. We're going to wash our crowns into that body line before we glue pull. May not get all of them out. We may have to get only about 80% of the crowns before we have to pull the body line up. We'll see. It'd be nice to get all the crowns completely washed in, but on something that deep, it may not happen. So we may have to get most of the crown, get the body line glue pulled in, then go back to the crown to wash the rest of it in. We'll see. Here we're running a pinstripe and the fog together through the crown. See, it pinches fairly good from there and stops pinching right about, right about there would be the back of the crown. That's where it's just starting to form in the panel. And pinstripe same, and the pinstripe stays the same thickness. So right about there, where the crown stopped forming in the panel. As we move up, we see it curve and then start to pinch right there. And really pinch right about there. That's going to be the high point of the crown, so he's going to start right about there and tap it into the dent. And he's going to do the same thing on top. I think he goes a little higher. Washing that right into the dent, very nice. Just keep washing that right into the body line, you're almost there. Connected hits now, connected hits. Actually, now notice, just those last few, look at the metal you shocked into that dent. You're hitting harder, you're moving metal. Where you were before, keep it up. All right, Ryan's done with his initial crown removal. Got an easy 50% of the depth out of that and good part of the diameter as well. More importantly, he took his springs out, so we're going to get a whole lot more when we glue pull. I know some of you think I'm beating this point into the ground, but guys, you've got to think of crowns as springs. They're holding energy around your dent, and they will not let it up nearly as easily as if you take those springs out from around that dent. We're heating both our tab and panel up to about 160 degrees before we put the glue on. This is going to give us an extra strong pull, and on aluminum, we need all the help we can get.
All right, ready?
Nice pull. See what heat does, man?
Yep.
There's nothing like heat until you have the panel up.
That's good.
Can't get any more maximum pull than that. So do we make it a one-hit wonder?
Wow.
Wow. Impressive. Huh? Yeah, there you go. You want to shine that up a little bit. Good first pull. Ryan's done washing the crowns, the remainder of the crown into the dent. We had to make 2 passes on those crowns and stop and pull the body line up in the middle. We couldn't get 100% of those crowns washed back in, so we did our first set of washing the crowns in, where we washed about 80 to 85% of all those crowns into the dent. And the final 10 to 15, we had to make one more pull on that, or a pull on that body line to get the rest of them to remove properly. And this is all we've got left. In the real world, we would tool this up, but we're going to pretend we have to glue pull it all. Hard. Go hard, pull it fast. You're waiting. Now that didn't get it, nothing did.
You don't think that did anything?
Huh? last pull, glue pull, wasn't quite enough. So we're gonna have to go in there with a tool, just clean up a little bit. Just a little bit too deep to come 100% out with glue pulling. Okay, it ended up, we did put a few pushes in here. We couldn't get 100% out with glue pulling, so I misjudged that, but that was a pretty deep golf ball size dent, golf ball plus size. And it was done by Ryan Roberto. Actually, there he is right there, big smiling face. He's pretty happy about that. That's a pretty hard, at least for somebody starting out, aluminum body line dent. Came out pretty nice.